Aaron would bring in money from working at the RV park, the hourly wage that Amos would pay him, and, hopefully, additional money on the side from doing upgrades to folks' RVs. Amos had made him a good deal in that regard. Any work done while Aaron was on the clock would be billed and paid to the market. Any work done on his off days or after hours, mainly building sheds, porches, or closet space, would be paid directly to Aaron. He didn't know how much that would be, but he knew that he was adept at the work. Between the money he earned and the money from the crops, they might be able to pay the bank enough to receive another extension. And in a year, maybe 2, they might actually be out of the hole his father had dug. Thinking of his Dot caused him to stop pedaling and coast as he turned onto Huckleberry Lane. Aaron hadn't seen his Dot yet, and he didn't want to. Of course, he would help his mam. Of course, he would do the responsible thing. But that didn't mean that he had to greet his father with open arms. Zachary King had done more to harm his family than help. He was a selfish, bad person. Aaron had accepted that years ago. He would stay on the old farmstead and help, but he'd only do it for his mam. As for being back in Shipshawana, he didn't mind so much. It had been a good place to grow up, not too big, not too terribly small, though the town itself was tiny. The market had always been the center of things and attracted huge crowds. Shipshe would be an okay place to live. It was just that after 7 years in Sarasota, he felt as if he'd come home with his tail tucked between his legs, as if he'd done something wrong. But he hadn't. He'd moved on with his life, as his grandparents had counseled him to do. He'd grown up and learned to be independent. He'd put some of the nightmares of his youth behind him. And now he was back. He'd work at the market as long as necessary, save up his money, help his mam. Once she was financially stable, maybe he could move to Goshen or Elkhart. He had no burning desire to go back to Sarasota, but he didn't want to live with or near his Dot either, and the man would be back home eventually. Setting things right should take 1 year, 2 at the most. He'd just have to remember to keep his muddy boots off Bethany Yoder's rug. As he pedaled into the family drive, he laughed, because she'd looked so cute when she had ordered him out. Let her assume that he was barging in and trying to take over. As long as she didn't guess the truth about his family, about how bad things really were, he didn't care what she thought. Or at least that's what he told himself. Because the idea of Bethany Yoder feeling pity for him was absolutely more than he could bear.